and everything was denied. And what really struck me as odd was I had submitted my 40-page IEP since kindergarten in this request. And yet, the fact that they still managed to deny my accommodations over that, when even the request for a private room was listed in my IEP as saying she can take any exam in a private room, take as long as she needs, and they still denied this, demonstrating that I hadn't shown sufficient evidence that I needed this for the bar exam, was a little shocking to me. I didn't have Sue as a counselor for preparing for the bar exam and requesting my accommodations, but I definitely learned my lesson the first time around. Sadly, at the time I received my letter of denial from the California Bar, I was on vacation after graduation from law school, and I did not have time to appeal by the time I returned. There was no time to get sufficient evidence or to rewrite that testimony or put together all of my evidence and to type up this, 5-page document, or basically a dissertation on my disability and why I needed accommodations on the bar exam. So what happened was I went into the bar exam, and instead of giving me a private room or semi-private rooms I'd requested, they threw me into the San Mateo Convention Center, which holds about 3,000 to 5,000 people. They did not give me preferential seating, but they thought they did because they put me in the front row. However, I was about 200 feet from the person giving instructions on the exam, and I had no ability to lip read that person whatsoever because they were too far away. Then the bar decided, oh, well, since we're going to deny her these accommodations, let's just throw her a bone. And they said, okay, we'll just give you a written copy of the instructions on the exam so you can read along. But I guess they didn't think about the possibility that if I can't lip read, nobody's being told when the instructions are beginning. Clearly, I'm going to be able to follow along in the written instructions, right? And know exactly when I'm supposed to begin the bar exam. Because the last words of the instructions are the words, "You may now begin." So I walked in there and I'm thinking, this is not right. I lost almost all confidence in myself, and I'm like, you know what? I've got 3 days. I've got to do the best job that I can do on this exam, and if I don't pass the bar, I'm going to know why I didn't pass the bar. So, and the other great thing, and in addition to all of this hilarity, is that the proctor overseeing my section in that room of about 3,000 to 5,000 people forgot to hand me the written instructions. So, I mean, just about every nightmare you can imagine. I look back and laugh at it now, but during the time I was freaking out and just wondering, oh my God, how am I going to get through these 3 days of the bar exam? And I began to prepare my appeal over the next year. I decided to take 1 year off and just say, okay, I need to reassess where I am, see what I can do in terms of getting a job because the economy crashed. And fortunately, I was working with the Mayor's Office on Disabilities. So I started doing some more research into the ADA and putting together my next application. Because once your accommodations are denied, you have to go through that entire process of applying all over again. You have to find those same forms. You have to put together your evidence. You have to answer those questions all over again. It's different once your accommodations are granted and you do not take the bar, or you do not pass the bar again. They have a separate form, where when all of your requested accommodations are granted and you do not pass the bar exam, the California Bar does have a separate sheet. It's a 1-page document. You just check a box saying you want the same accommodations that you were granted the last time, sign and date, send it in, and you've got your accommodations all over again. It's a completely painless process. However, for the second time that I took the bar exam, I went back and I got the same IEP. And I went through my IEP, and every time it said assistive listening device or FM system, I highlighted it, and I took a tab and I stuck that on the page, so that by the time I finished doing that process, I took a look at my IEP and there were probably about 10 or 15 blue tabs sticking on the end, all pointing to a highlighted FM system. Additionally, in the questionnaire that the bar exam committee wants you to fill out, it will say, When have you been granted accommodations on standardized exams before? When have you been denied accommodations on standardized exams before? So I went back through that and reiterized in more explicit detail. And I cannot tell you how important it is to be very explicit in your application. And very explicitly said, one-way communication device. One-way communication device. Because it appeared that the bar was giving the idea that this FM system, this accommodation, or this assistive listening device was a two-way communication thing, which if any of you have seen one, it is so completely not what it is. It's an assistive listening device. It helps one person who is severely hard of hearing be able to hear what's going on. I have no ability to communicate back to the proctor. Why would I want to? Why would I want to communicate with the proctor while I'm taking the bar exam? So every time I stated FM system in that application, I had to put the words one way before it to kind of drive that point across. So that clearly shows, as Sue was saying, you can demonstrate that your communication is going to be affected. Go overboard. Give them more than what they want. Because that's the only way that they are going to understand your disability and how it's going to impact you on the bar exam. Just because somebody with a similar disability is getting their accommodations on the bar doesn't necessarily mean that you will get yours. I have so many friends who are deaf or hard of hearing and got all of their accommodations, and so I thought it would be a slam dunk for me too, but that wasn't the case. I really had to fight, and I went overboard. I submitted more documentation detailing the accommodations I'd received throughout college and throughout law school. I had to demonstrate that I'd used not only the FM system in law school, but also that I had preferential seating in my law school exams. And I had to actually give them an official definition of what preferential seating means. It does not mean front row. It means front and center, or it means wherever you are closest to the speaker. So in that sense, know your disability and know what the terminology for your disability is. And maybe that you have to give them some definitions of that terminology. And that is the best way that you can be prepared to make your case for the bar exam, to be able to say, okay, here's what I need, here's how my disability affects me in these specific areas, and why I am not going to be able to take the bar exam in 3 days, or in these conditions, or in this setting. And you have to give them that detailed history of your disability. You don't necessarily want to give them all the medical information, but give them your personal identity. And you have to be an advocate. That's what we're in law school to do, is be an advocate for something. And this is your chance to be an advocate for yourself and to say, this is how my disability is going to affect me on this exam, unlike anybody else who's walking in that door.
Thank you. Also, when you're submitting all of your material, have a cover sheet that lists every single thing you're submitting. You gotta make it super, super easy for them to know what they have. And so they can refer to, because there's so much paper, there's like 5 forms, or there's so many different forms, that you wanna also have a list of everything that you're giving them, just so they can find it easily too. And definitely highlight and tab. It seems like it's overboard, but it's not. Like, you have to do that to really make your case. That said, I'm going to share with you a little bit of my bar exam experience in the environment that you actually have during the bar. You know, so I'm sure you guys, you're all in law school. You know how finals are. Well, like most people have like 100, and that's like studying for the bar and actually going and sitting down taking the exam. So for me, since I had a private room, I took it as a special accommodated testing location, and which sounds great, right? But you know, it sounds great. But when you show up, so basically you show up the day before, you check in, then you get a chance to go and see your room. So I had a private room, which I was like, great, thumbs up. I see my room and I'm like, no, no, no. This is so not gonna work. At least not in the setup. They actually, well, first I made them change my room. Yeah, what the problem was. Well, it's a hotel room. You'd run in, you're in a hotel room. And they have the mattress is like, you know, the frame is out, the mattress is like up against the wall. It's not pretty. Because, you know, they have to pay extra to move the mattress and leave it there. And, true story. And they have all these, they have the desks, a desk set up. just wherever it was in the original hotel room.